The morning sun poured through the tall windows of the children's hospital, illuminating the sterile yet lively environment within. It was a typical day filled with laughter and shouts of joy, as little ones played with colorful toys in the pediatric wing. And if you like the story, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Nurses bustled about, tending to the needs of the children, their bright uniforms creating a rainbow of color against the stark white walls. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the faint scent of antiseptic, creating a strange but familiar blend that seemed to signify both comfort and care. Among the cheerful chaos, Miss Thompson, the head nurse, took a moment to breathe deeply, appreciating the noise and activity that surrounded her. The children's laughter was a soothing balm to the sometimes overwhelming atmosphere of a hospital, reminding her of why she chose this profession. Just then, a loud commotion erupted from the entrance, capturing her attention. The doors swung open, and in trotted a scruffy, golden-brown stray dog, his matted fur catching the light in a way that made him look almost golden. His tail wagged enthusiastically as he confidently entered the hospital, sniffing the air and taking in his surroundings with bright, curious eyes. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as everyone turned to watch this unexpected visitor. Some children squealed with delight, their faces lighting up at the sight of the friendly canine, while others gasped in surprise, unsure of what to make of the furry intruder. The dog seemed unfazed by the attention, weaving through the play area, his energy infectious as he approached a group of kids who were engrossed in a game. "What is that dog doing here?" one of the nurses exclaimed, glancing at Miss Thompson with wide eyes. Just as Miss Thompson took a step forward to investigate, the dog sat down in the center of the circle, a proud look on his face, as if he were a part of the game. The children surrounded him, their little hands reaching out to pet him, their laughter echoing through the halls. He looked so happy, so at home, and for a moment, the sterile environment of the hospital transformed into a playground of joy. It was as if this stray dog had the magical ability to heal wounds with his presence alone, lifting the spirits of everyone around him. Miss Thompson felt a smile creeping onto her face, but her curiosity was piqued. Who was this dog, and why had he decided to come here? As she approached him, she noticed something peculiar, a small backpack strapped securely around his body, decorated with colorful patches and stickers. "What in the world?" she murmured, bending down to get a closer look. The backpack looked worn, as if it had seen countless adventures, and her heart raced with curiosity. Just then, Buddy, as one of the children excitedly named him, wiggled with excitement, his tail wagging even faster. The children cheered, calling out his name, urging him to play. Miss Thompson couldn't help but feel the warmth in her chest as she observed the pure joy radiating from the children. It was a moment of pure innocence, a reminder of the simple pleasures that often eluded them in the hospital. Just as she was about to unclip the backpack, a little girl named Lucy, with wide, sparkling eyes and a bright yellow dress, piped up, "I know him. He comes to visit us every day." Lucy's declaration sent a ripple of excitement through the group, and Miss Thompson's heart skipped a beat. Every day? How had she not noticed this before? Intrigued, she straightened up and looked around at the children. Their faces were alight with recognition and affection for Buddy, the furry visitor who had made such an impact in their lives. "He does?" Miss Thompson asked, kneeling down to Lucy's level, her heart swelling with curiosity. "What do you mean?" Lucy beamed, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "He's my friend. I named him Buddy. He always comes to cheer us up when we're feeling sad." Miss Thompson felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to the stories of how Buddy had brightened their days. The children recounted moments of laughter and comfort that he had provided during their stays at the hospital. Each tale painted a picture of a brave little dog who had become a beacon of hope, inspiring strength in the face of adversity. Just then, Miss Thompson caught a glimpse of the security guard approaching with a concerned look on his face. "We need to remove this dog. He doesn't belong here," he said, crossing his arms. The children's faces fell at his words, and a wave of panic swept through the play area. "No, please!" Lucy cried, her voice trembling. "He helps us feel better." Miss Thompson stood tall, her eyes fixed on the guard. Wait, let's not rush to conclusions. We need to find out where he came from and why he keeps returning. But the guard remained firm, his expression unreadable. It's not safe for him to be here without permission. What if he bites someone? Miss Thompson shook her head, recalling the children's stories filled with warmth and laughter, and the bond that had formed between them and Buddy. I believe he's here to help, not harm. Just then, the hospital's head doctor, Dr. Lee, walked by and overheard the commotion. His brow furrowed as he approached, trying to understand what was happening. Miss Thompson explained the situation quickly, emphasizing Buddy's positive impact on the kids. He brings them comfort and happiness, she insisted, her voice steady. Dr. Lee glanced at the dog, who sat patiently, his tail wagging gently. We can't ignore the joy he brings, he said thoughtfully. After a moment of silence, he added, let's observe Buddy for a few days and see how he interacts with the children. If he shows no signs of aggression, we can consider allowing him to stay. The children erupted in cheers, their spirits lifting as hope returned to the room. But just as they celebrated, Buddy suddenly perked up, his ears twitching as he sniffed the air. Something was approaching. As Miss Thompson knelt beside the dog, her fingers brushed against the soft, worn fabric of the little backpack strapped to his back. The children gathered closer, their excitement palpable. What's in there? A curious boy named Ethan asked, his wide eyes sparkling with wonder. The other kids leaned in, their faces lit with anticipation. Miss Thompson hesitated for a moment, her heart racing with curiosity. The dog, whom Lucy had named Buddy, looked up at her with an innocent expression, his tail wagging in a rhythmic dance of hope. She unfastened the clip of the backpack, careful not to startle him. Let's find out, she said, her voice soft yet filled with determination. As she opened the flap, Miss Thompson was greeted by a burst of colorful items spilling out, a rainbow of toys, crayons, and small, crinkled notes covered in cheerful drawings. Oh my goodness, she exclaimed, her eyes widening in surprise. Look at this. The children gasped in unison, their faces lighting up with delight. What's that? Lucy pointed to a bright blue crayon that rolled out, stopping at her feet. Miss Thompson picked it up, holding it out for everyone to see. Looks like Buddy has been collecting gifts for you all. Lucy's eyes sparkled with understanding. He brings us toys. That's why he visits every day. The other children nodded, their imaginations running wild with the idea of Buddy as a magical dog who brought gifts. Miss Thompson chuckled, but her mind raced with questions. How did this dog come to possess such treasures? As she dug deeper into the backpack, she found a small stuffed bear, its fur slightly matted but still soft. She held it up, and the children erupted in a chorus of oohs and ahs. I bet he's bringing these to comfort kids who need it, a little girl named Mia exclaimed, her face flushed with excitement. Just then, Miss Thompson noticed something else hidden beneath the toys, a stack of colorful notes. She carefully pulled them out, unfolding the first one. It was filled with crayon scribbles and a simple message, get well soon. The next note read, you're strong. We love you. Tears prickled at the corners of Miss Thompson's eyes as she realized the significance of these messages. Buddy is spreading love and encouragement, she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. The children nodded, clearly touched by the heartwarming sentiments. And if you like the story, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Suddenly, a little boy with a cast on his arm spoke up, I want to write a note for my friend too. His enthusiasm sparked a wave of inspiration among the group. Me too. Let's write notes for everyone, they chimed, their voices bubbling with energy. Seeing the children rally around Buddy and his backpack, Miss Thompson felt a surge of determination. All right, let's make it a fun project. We can write notes and put them in Buddy's backpack to take to the other kids in the hospital. Yeah, the kids cheered, their laughter echoing in the room as they scrambled to gather crayons and paper. The hospital's sterile environment was quickly transformed into a lively workshop of creativity and hope. As the children busily created their notes, Miss Thompson glanced at Buddy, who sat contentedly, basking in the attention. He seemed to know he was part of something special. Just then, Miss Thompson noticed something peculiar. One of the notes was slightly different from the others. It was neatly folded, its edges crisp. Intrigued, she picked it up and carefully unfolded it. The handwriting was more mature, not a child's scribble. It read, "To all the brave kids at the hospital, I hope you feel better soon. Remember, you are loved." Who wrote this? She wondered aloud, scanning the room for answers. The children paused in their note-writing, exchanging curious glances. "Do you think it's from someone who used to stay here?" Ethan suggested. "Maybe." Mia chimed in. "They could have been a patient just like us." The thought sent a ripple of excitement through the group. "Let's write more notes. Maybe we can find out who it was." Miss Thompson couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. "That's a wonderful idea. Let's write notes to all the kids who have been here before and those who are here now. We can make them feel loved, just like Buddy does." The energy in the room shifted from curiosity to purpose. As they wrote, the kids shared stories about their experiences in the hospital, each tale filled with bravery and resilience. "I had to get a shot, and it hurt a lot, but my mom held my hand," Lucy recounted, her voice steady despite the memory. "I had a big surgery, but then I got a cool toy afterward," Ethan added, grinning. The conversations flowed, and Miss Thompson observed how Buddy seemed to connect them all, his presence creating a safe space for sharing. Suddenly, the hospital intercom crackled to life. "Attention all staff, please report to the main desk for an important announcement." Miss Thompson glanced around the room, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. "I wonder what that's about," she mused aloud. "Maybe it's about Buddy," Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "They want to keep him here forever." The other children cheered at the idea, their faces bright with hope. But Miss Thompson felt a pang of worry. What if the announcement was about something serious? She glanced at Buddy, who was now playfully nudging the notes with his nose, oblivious to the tension in the air. "Let's finish these notes quickly, just in case," Miss Thompson urged, and the children scrambled to complete their messages of love and encouragement. As they finished, the room was filled with laughter and joy, each child excited to contribute to the cause. When the notes were finally collected and placed back in Buddy's backpack, Miss Thompson took a moment to admire the array of colorful creations. "These will brighten so many kids' days," she said, her heart swelling with pride. Just then, the intercom buzzed again, and the voice of Dr. Lee echoed through the hospital. "We need to discuss a new visitor policy. Please gather at the main desk immediately." A wave of unease washed over Miss Thompson. What did that mean for Buddy? She turned to the children, her expression serious. "All right, let's clean up quickly and see what's happening." As the children tidied the area, Buddy wagged his tail, seemingly unfazed by the commotion. Miss Thompson knew she had to protect him and ensure he could continue visiting the children who needed him. "Come on, Buddy," she said gently, leading him toward the main desk. The children followed, their voices hushed as they sensed the change in the atmosphere. As they reached the main desk, the staff had already gathered, and Dr. Lee stood at the front, his expression grave. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I understand we have a new visitor, and I'd like to discuss how we can ensure safety for both our patients and our furry friend." Miss Thompson felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Would they take Buddy away? She exchanged worried glances with the children, their eyes reflecting the same fear. "Buddy has been a great source of comfort for our young patients," Dr. Lee continued. "But we need to establish some guidelines to make sure everyone is safe." "Safe?" Lucy whispered, her voice trembling. "Does that mean Buddy can't stay?" Dr. Lee looked around the room, his gaze landing on Buddy, who sat patiently at Miss Thompson's side. "Not at all. We want to find a way for Buddy to continue his visits, but we need to make sure he's healthy and that we have a proper plan in place." The children's expressions brightened, hope rekindling in their hearts. "So he can stay?" Ethan asked eagerly. "Yes, but we'll need to monitor him and ensure he is well cared for," Dr. Lee replied, nodding. We can also schedule visits with a local veterinarian to ensure Buddy remains healthy. Miss Thompson felt a wave of relief wash over her. That sounds perfect, Dr. Lee. Buddy means so much to the kids, and I believe he truly helps them heal. Dr. Lee smiled, and the children erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the hospital. Thank you. Thank you, they shouted, jumping up and down with excitement. In that moment, Buddy wagged his tail, and Miss Thompson knew they had reached a turning point. The mystery of Buddy's backpack had led to something far greater, an opportunity to bring joy and comfort to the children in need. As the staff began discussing the logistics of Buddy's visits, Miss Thompson felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning of a beautiful journey, one where love and support could thrive in the walls of the hospital, all thanks to a scruffy stray dog with a heart of gold. And as they worked together, the bond between Buddy and the children only grew stronger, creating a sense of hope that would ripple through the hospital long after they left. Lucy's announcement brought a wave of murmurs from the other children. He does? Miss Thompson asked, looking between Lucy and the dog, who now wagged his tail excitedly. Yes. Lucy beamed. He's my friend. I named him Buddy. The other kids chimed in, echoing Lucy's enthusiasm. Buddy comes to see me when I'm sad, said a boy named Carlos, his eyes sparkling with joy. He made me laugh when I had to get a shot. Another child, Sarah, nodded eagerly. And he always knows when we need him. He's like a superhero. Miss Thompson felt her heart swell at the sight of the children rallying around the dog. A superhero, huh? She asked, kneeling to meet their eyes. What makes him a superhero? He has a special nose. Lucy exclaimed, her hands waving excitedly. He can smell when someone is sad or hurt. He just shows up and helps. That's amazing. Miss Thompson replied, her curiosity piqued. She glanced back at Buddy, who seemed to bask in the children's affection, his tongue lolling out happily. The joy in the room was contagious, filling her with warmth. But her heart ached too. How had a stray dog become so important to these children? What did it mean for Buddy to show up at the hospital day after day? And where did he come from? As she knelt there, Lucy tugged at her sleeve. You should see the notes we wrote to him, she insisted, eyes wide with excitement. We all made cards for Buddy when he came to visit last week. Can I show you? Yes, let's see. Miss Thompson replied, intrigued. The children quickly scrambled to gather their drawings, the room buzzing with energy. Buddy watched, his tail wagging faster as he sensed the anticipation. Moments later, the children returned with a stack of colorful papers, each one decorated with crayon drawings and heartfelt messages. This one is from me, Lucy said, holding up a card with a big sun and stick figures. It says, thank you for being my friend, Buddy. Carlos added, mine says, you make me happy. His drawing depicted Buddy with a giant bone, and everyone laughed. Each card told a story, a glimpse into the bond they had formed with the dog. Miss Thompson marveled at the creativity and love poured into each drawing. These are beautiful. You all did an amazing job, she praised. What if we read them to Buddy? The children cheered at the idea. Yes. Let's read them, Sarah exclaimed, her excitement infectious. As Lucy began to read her card aloud, Buddy moved closer, sitting beside her, ears perked and attention fully focused. Buddy, you make me smile. I love when you visit. Lucy read, her voice filled with emotion. Tears threatened to form in Miss Thompson's eyes as she watched the scene unfold. In that moment, the hospital felt less like a sterile place and more like a sanctuary. Here was a dog, a simple stray, who had unwittingly become a source of healing and joy for these children. With each card read aloud, the atmosphere shifted. Buddy's presence transformed the room, turning anxiety into laughter, fear into comfort. The children's giggles echoed, punctuating the air with innocence and hope. Let me read mine, a boy named Jake shouted, bouncing on his toes. He held up a drawing of Buddy wearing a superhero cape. It says, "You are my hero." The room erupted in cheers and applause, Buddy tilting his head as if he understood every word. Miss Thompson watched as the children surrounded the dog, their laughter and joy blending together in a beautiful symphony of friendship. But amid the laughter, a part of her remained cautious. This is wonderful, she thought, but what will happen when Buddy leaves? How can we ensure he can keep visiting? Is it safe for him to be here? Just then, a soft whimper escaped Buddy's mouth, drawing her attention. He looked around, sensing the change in the air. The joyful noise of the children seemed to drown out any lingering doubts, but Miss Thompson couldn't shake her concern. In the back of her mind, a sense of urgency grew. What if someone complained? What if the hospital administration decided to ban Buddy from coming back? These thoughts plagued her as she observed the children, their faces glowing with joy, unaware of the potential turmoil lurking just outside their bubble of happiness. As the last card was read, Buddy rolled over, exposing his belly, inviting the kids to pet him. They happily obliged, their fingers digging into his soft fur. "Look at him. He loves us," Lucy squealed, her laughter infectious. Miss Thompson couldn't help but smile. "He really does," she said softly, feeling the warmth in her heart. Buddy is a special dog. But the joy of the moment was overshadowed by the lingering question, how could they keep this precious bond alive? Would they have to fight to keep Buddy at the hospital? At that moment, Buddy let out a small bark, drawing everyone's attention. The children laughed again, their delight brightening the room. But Miss Thompson felt a weight on her shoulders. She knew they needed to take action to ensure Buddy's presence was officially recognized and celebrated. "Okay, everyone," she said, gathering her thoughts. "What do you think we should do to make sure Buddy can keep coming to visit?" The room erupted in a flurry of ideas. "We can write a letter," Carlos suggested, his eyes wide with excitement. "Yes. A letter to the hospital director," Lucy added. "Let's tell everyone how much Buddy helps us." Jake chimed in, determination sparkling in his eyes. Miss Thompson felt a rush of inspiration. "That's a great idea. Let's make a big project out of this. We can work together to show just how important Buddy is to all of you." The children cheered, their voices rising in enthusiasm. "Yes. We can draw pictures and write stories. Let's do it." As they gathered their supplies, Miss Thompson felt a wave of gratitude for Buddy, who had brought this unexpected opportunity for teamwork and advocacy into their lives. The stray dog had become more than just a visitor, he was a catalyst for change. As the children began brainstorming ideas, Miss Thompson glanced at Buddy, who sat proudly among them, tail wagging as if he understood the mission at hand. In that moment, she realized that they were not just fighting to keep a dog in the hospital, they were fighting for their right to happiness and healing, to keep hope alive in the face of adversity. The excitement in the room grew as the children dove into their project. Buddy would not only remain a beloved companion but also serve as a symbol of resilience. Together, they would ensure that his visits continued, transforming the hospital experience for many children to come. As the day wore on, Miss Thompson felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would advocate for Buddy, for the children who needed him, and for the joy he brought. Together, they would make sure this unique friendship endured, allowing Buddy to be the hero he was meant to be. With determination lighting her heart, Miss Thompson knew they were on the brink of something special. The children's laughter echoed through the halls, a testament to the power of love, friendship, and the simple act of a stray dog visiting a hospital. Buddy was more than just a dog, he was a beacon of hope for all who crossed his path. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the windows, Miss Thompson felt a sense of peace wash over her. They were ready to take action, to let their voices be heard. Buddy had sparked a flame of courage within each of them, and she couldn't wait to see how their story would unfold. The journey was just beginning, but with Buddy by their side, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would ensure that this special bond continued to thrive, illuminating the hospital halls with love, laughter, and the unwavering spirit of friendship. The commotion in the pediatric wing reached a fever pitch as the security guard's stern voice echoed off the walls. "No, please." Lucy's cry cut through the air like a knife, filled with desperation. Her small hands clasped together in a pleading gesture, and her wide eyes glistened with tears. "Buddy helps us feel better. He's our friend." The other children gathered around her, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. They were ready to defend their unexpected hero. Miss Thompson stood tall, her heart racing as she faced the security guard. She could see the resolve in Lucy's little face, and it filled her with a sense of urgency. "Wait. Let's not rush to conclusions," she urged, her voice steady but firm. "We need to figure out what Buddy means to these children before making any decisions. He's not just a stray dog, he's become a part of our community here." The guard frowned, crossing his arms tightly over his chest, clearly unconvinced. "I get that, but we can't allow an unlicensed animal in the hospital. It's a safety hazard. What if he bites someone?" The guard's gaze swept over the children, who were still petting Buddy, the dog wagging his tail and soaking up the affection like a sponge. Miss Thompson could feel the weight of his words pressing down on her, threatening to crush the joy that had filled the room just moments ago. "Buddy wouldn't hurt a fly," Miss Thompson asserted, her voice gaining strength. She glanced at the children, who were looking to her for support. "Look at how gentle he is with them. He's not just any dog, he's here for a reason. He's bringing comfort to kids who need it the most." Her words hung in the air, and she could see a flicker of hope in Lucy's eyes. As the children chimed in, recounting their stories of Buddy's visits, the atmosphere shifted slightly. "He came to see me when I had surgery," one boy exclaimed, his voice enthusiastic. "He sat by my bed and made me feel less scared." Another child piped up, "He licked my face when I was sad, and it made me laugh." Each story added to the growing tapestry of Buddy's impact, weaving a narrative that was hard to dismiss. The more they spoke, the more the security guard's resolve began to waver. He looked at Miss Thompson, uncertainty flickering across his face. "I've never seen a dog act like this in a hospital," he admitted reluctantly. "But still, the rules." Suddenly, a voice broke through the tension. It was Dr. Lee, the hospital's head doctor, who had been passing by and had overheard the commotion. He approached the group, raising an eyebrow at the scene unfolding before him. "What's all this about?" he asked, concern etched into his features. Miss Thompson quickly explained the situation, emphasizing the positive effects Buddy had on the children. "They've been telling me how much he means to them. It's clear he brings them joy and comfort during difficult times." She turned to Dr. Lee, her heart racing as she sought his support. "I really believe we should let him stay." Dr. Lee glanced at Buddy, who was now lying peacefully among the children, his tail thumping gently against the floor as they continued to pet him. The doctor's expression softened. "This is certainly unusual," he said thoughtfully. "However, if Buddy is here to help, maybe we can find a way to make it work." A wave of relief washed over Miss Thompson. "What if we observe Buddy for a few days? We can assess how he interacts with the children, and if he shows no signs of aggression, perhaps we can officially allow him to visit." The security guard opened his mouth to protest, but Dr. Lee raised a hand to stop him. "I think it's worth a try," he said decisively. "We can set some guidelines to ensure the safety of both Buddy and the children. But if he's helping these kids cope with their challenges, we owe it to them to give him a chance." The children erupted in cheers, their laughter ringing through the pediatric wing like music. Lucy jumped up and down, clapping her hands. Thank you," she shouted, her joy infectious. Miss Thompson felt a swell of pride in her heart as she watched the kids rally around Buddy, who seemed to bask in the attention. Just as they were celebrating, the security guard sighed, but his expression had softened. "All right, I'll agree to this, for now," he said reluctantly. "But if there are any issues, we're going to have to rethink this arrangement." As the news spread through the hospital, more staff members gathered to see what all the excitement was about. Word quickly got around that a stray dog had found his way into the pediatric wing, and curiosity piqued. Many of the nurses and doctors, initially skeptical, began to see the joy Buddy brought to the children. "Look at him," one nurse remarked, smiling as she watched Buddy nuzzle against a little girl who had just undergone a procedure. "He's so sweet. I can't believe he's just a stray." Miss Thompson exchanged grateful glances with Dr. Lee, feeling a sense of triumph in the air. They had stood up for Buddy and the children, and it felt like a small victory in a world that often seemed cold and unyielding. The atmosphere in the pediatric wing shifted entirely as Buddy became the focal point of joy and laughter. Kids who had been feeling lonely or scared found comfort in their new furry friend, and the hospital felt a little warmer, a little brighter. But as the excitement began to settle, Buddy suddenly perked up, his ears twitching as he sniffed the air. Miss Thompson noticed and turned her head toward the entrance, her brow furrowed. "What is it, Buddy?" she asked, but the dog remained alert, his eyes trained on the door. Just then, the hospital doors swung open, and a distressed woman rushed in, her face pale with worry. My son is in the hospital," she shouted, panic in her voice. The atmosphere in the hospital shifted as the sounds of laughter and joy faded into hushed whispers. The sudden appearance of the distressed woman sent a wave of urgency through the pediatric wing. Miss Thompson felt her heart race as she observed the woman, who was clearly overwhelmed with fear. The hospital had been a place of comfort and healing for so many children, and now, in an instant, it had turned into a scene of chaos. "Where is he? Where is my son?" the woman cried, her voice thick with panic. She pushed past Miss Thompson and the security guard, her eyes wide and wild. Jamila, a nurse standing nearby, immediately recognized the signs of a mother in distress. She rushed to the woman's side, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let's take a deep breath," Jamila said softly, her voice steadying. "Can you tell us your son's name and what happened?" As the woman struggled to catch her breath, tears streamed down her cheeks. "His name is Ethan. He was playing in the park when he fell off the swing. I didn't know he was hurt until the ambulance called me. I'm so scared." Miss Thompson quickly glanced at the hospital's pediatric unit, where the staff had already mobilized in response to the incoming emergency. "Ethan is going to get the best care possible," she assured the mother, even as her own heart sank. The pediatric team had dealt with many emergencies, but each one felt unique, each child a world of possibility and hope wrapped in fragility. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance to the pediatric wing. Buddy, the golden-brown stray dog, had sensed the change in energy, his ears perked up, and his tail stilled. The dog took a few tentative steps forward, his instincts kicking in as he noticed the worried mother's distress. Miss Thompson watched as Buddy seemed to understand that something serious was happening. "Buddy, no," she called out, but it was too late. The dog darted forward, weaving through the throng of nurses and doctors as they hurried toward the stretcher carrying Ethan. Buddy's heart raced as he felt the urgency in the air. He had been here before, he knew this place was about healing, and he sensed that a child needed him right now. As the medical team worked swiftly, the scene turned into a flurry of movement. The sound of beeping machines filled the air, punctuated by the voices of doctors calling out instructions. "Get the 4 set up. We need to stabilize him before he goes to surgery." Buddy raced to Ethan's side, his instincts guiding him. He stood beside the stretcher, his golden fur shining under the fluorescent lights, as he nudged the boy's hand gently with his nose. Ethan, still dazed from the pain, blinked slowly and let out a soft gasp. "Buddy," he whispered, his eyes lighting up at the sight of his furry friend. Ethan's mother froze, her heart swelling with a mix of relief and gratitude. "How did he know to come here?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "He must really love my boy." As if sensing her words, Buddy leaned closer to Ethan, offering the comfort that only a loyal companion could provide. The commotion around them faded as the medical staff focused on their work, but Buddy remained a steady presence. The warmth of his body and the rhythm of his breathing calmed the anxious child, who slowly began to relax under the dog's gentle touch. Dr. Lee, the head doctor, observed the scene with a knowing smile. Animals have a way of sensing when someone needs them most, he said to Miss Thompson, who stood nearby, watching the reunion with a mix of admiration and hope. Buddy seems to be a real hero today. The energy in the room shifted as Buddy lay down next to Ethan, providing a furry anchor amidst the chaos. The boy's small hand curled around Buddy's collar, holding on tightly. The connection between them seemed to transcend the circumstances, as if they were both reminding each other that they were not alone in this moment of uncertainty. Jamila returned to Ethan's side, her heart warmed by the sight. "You're going to be okay, Ethan," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "You have Buddy here, and we're going to take good care of you." The medical team continued to work diligently, and for a moment, the world outside the hospital faded away. The sounds of beeping machines and hurried footsteps became a distant echo as the bond between the boy and the dog captured everyone's attention. Buddy had become not just a stray dog, but a source of comfort and resilience, bridging the gap between fear and healing. As the stretcher began to move, Buddy kept pace beside it, never leaving Ethan's side. The team wheeled the boy down the hall toward the operating room, and Buddy instinctively followed. "Wait," the security guard called, looking confused and unsure of how to handle the situation. Dr. Lee raised a hand, halting the guard in his tracks. "Let him stay," he commanded, his voice firm. "We need Buddy here. He's providing emotional support." The guard hesitated, glancing at the emotional scene unfolding before him. Finally, he nodded, allowing Buddy to accompany Ethan into the operating room. It was a decision that would soon prove to be pivotal in the young boy's recovery. As they entered the operating room, the atmosphere shifted again. Buddy instinctively lay down next to Ethan, who felt a wave of relief wash over him. In the sterile environment filled with surgical tools and bright lights, the boy's heart raced, but Buddy's presence grounded him. "You're going to be okay," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible. "You're my best friend." The medical team worked quickly, and Buddy remained close, his warmth providing a reassuring presence. The room was filled with focused energy as the doctors discussed the procedure, their voices steady and professional. "We're going to take good care of him," one of the nurses said, her tone soothing. Just then, a commotion outside caught Buddy's attention. The sounds of hurried footsteps and raised voices echoed through the hall. "What's going on?" Miss Thompson asked, stepping outside the operating room for a moment. As she looked down the corridor, she saw the distressed woman, Ethan's mother, speaking to another doctor. "I can't believe this is happening. What if he doesn't make it?" Her words were frantic, and Miss Thompson's heart ached for her. "Stay calm," the doctor replied, his expression serious yet compassionate. "We're doing everything we can." Returning to the operating room, Miss Thompson felt a surge of determination. "Ethan will be okay," she whispered to Buddy. "We'll make sure of it." In that moment, it was clear that Buddy had become more than just a stray dog. He was a part of a larger story, a symbol of hope, love, and resilience. As the medical staff continued their work, the bond between Buddy and Ethan deepened, creating a connection that would last a lifetime. Outside the operating room, the mother paced anxiously, biting her nails. But within, the energy shifted. Buddy remained close, embodying the strength that came from unconditional love. He understood the unspoken connection between them, and together, they faced the unknown with courage. As the surgery commenced, Ethan felt Buddy's presence by his side, a comforting anchor that reminded him he was not alone. "You're my hero, Buddy," he whispered, his voice barely above a whisper. And Buddy, sensing the weight of his responsibility, leaned closer, silently promising to be there every step of the way. With each passing moment, the surgery unfolded, and in the midst of uncertainty, the hospital buzzed with hope. Buddy's devotion and the bond he shared with Ethan became a lifeline that transcended the ordinary, turning a day filled with fear into one of strength, love, and resilience. The connection they forged in those critical moments would change their lives forever, proving that sometimes, the most unexpected heroes come in the form of a stray dog who visits a children's hospital every day. As the cheerful atmosphere in the pediatric wing shifted into a scene of urgent concern, the moment felt heavy with tension. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the corridor, and the chatter of children playing faded into the background as a woman burst through the hospital doors. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with fear. My son is in the hospital," she cried, her voice trembling with panic. Miss Thompson, the head nurse, immediately stepped forward, her training kicking in. "What happened? Where is he?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm and reassuring. The woman pointed toward the pediatric wing, her hand shaking. "He was just brought in. He's been in an accident." As Miss Thompson processed the information, her heart raced. "Okay, let's get you to him," she said, motioning for the woman to follow. Meanwhile, Buddy, the scruffy stray dog, seemed to sense the urgency in the air. His ears perked up, and without hesitation, he darted past the woman, racing toward the source of the commotion. The children in the play area watched in confusion as the dog sprinted away. "Where's he going?" one of them asked, curiosity piqued. "Is he going to help?" "He knows something is wrong," Lucy replied, her eyes glued to Buddy's figure. "He always knows." As Buddy reached the doorway of the treatment room, he paused for a moment, sniffing the air, as if assessing the situation. The medical team was already gathered around a small boy on a stretcher, their expressions serious and focused. The boy's mother followed closely behind, anxiety written all over her face. "Let us through," one of the doctors called out, pushing the curtain aside to make room for the frantic mother. Buddy trotted into the room, his little tail wagging nervously. He could feel the tension in the air, and yet he knew he had a job to do. The boy on the stretcher had a bruise forming on his forehead, and he looked pale, but his eyes flickered open at the sound of commotion. "Buddy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Buddy immediately bounded to the boy's side, nuzzling his hand with his wet nose. The moment their eyes met, something magical happened. A spark of recognition illuminated the boy's face, chasing away some of the fear that had clouded his features. "You came to see me," he murmured, reaching out to grasp Buddy's collar. At that moment, the boy's mother gasped, tears welling in her eyes. How did he know to come here? She wondered aloud, overwhelmed with emotion as she rushed to her son's side. The medical staff paused, caught in the poignant moment unfolding before them. Dr. Lee, the head physician, looked at the scene with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. "It seems Buddy really does have a purpose here," he remarked, his voice warm with appreciation. "He knows when a child needs him most." As the little boy hugged Buddy tightly, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The boy's mom, kneeling beside her son, stroked Buddy's fur gently, thanking him for being there. "You're a good boy," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "Thank you for watching over my baby." Buddy wagged his tail, sensing the comfort he was providing. He moved closer, resting his head on the boy's lap, offering a silent assurance that everything would be all right. Around the room, the medical team resumed their work, their spirits lifted by the sight of the boy finding solace in Buddy's presence. A nurse reached out to adjust the boy's fur, her heart softening as she watched the bond between the child and the dog. "You're lucky to have a friend like Buddy," she said softly, giving the boy a reassuring smile. The little boy nodded, his eyes sparkling with a mix of gratitude and admiration. "He comes to visit me every day. He makes me feel better when I'm scared." The room filled with a sense of camaraderie, the staff sharing knowing looks. They understood that in a place filled with uncertainty and fear, Buddy had carved out a special role. He wasn't just a stray dog, he was a source of comfort and hope for these children facing difficult times. And if you like the story, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Dr. Lee stepped back, observing the scene with a thoughtful expression. "It's incredible how animals can bring so much joy and healing," he said, addressing the team. "We should consider how we can formally include Buddy in our patient care." The other staff members nodded in agreement, their hearts warmed by the unfolding story. They began discussing the possibility of creating a program that allowed Buddy to visit the children regularly, formalizing the bond he had built with them. As the little boy continued to pet Buddy, the atmosphere in the room shifted from one of anxiety to a comforting familiarity. The boy's mother, overwhelmed by the situation, felt a sense of relief wash over her as she watched her son's anxiety fade away in the presence of the loving dog. "Thank you, Buddy," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You've saved my son today." In the corner, Miss Thompson watched the exchange with a smile. The idea of Buddy becoming a regular visitor at the hospital filled her with hope. She believed that the dog could help not only the children but also their families, providing a source of comfort during their toughest moments. As the medical team worked diligently to assess the boy's injuries, Buddy stayed close, offering warmth and companionship. The bond between the boy and the dog was undeniable, and everyone in the room felt the magic of that connection. Just then, a voice came through the intercom, announcing a code blue in another wing of the hospital. The doctors exchanged worried glances, knowing they had to act quickly. But before they could leave, Buddy looked up at Dr. Lee, his big brown eyes filled with a sense of purpose. "Do you think he knows someone else needs help?" a nurse asked, her voice filled with awe. Dr. Lee nodded, feeling a renewed sense of admiration for the stray dog. "He may be just a dog, but he seems to understand more than we realize." Buddy stood up, his tail wagging, and turned to the boy, who looked up at him with a mix of confusion and concern. "I have to go now," the boy said, his voice cracking. "Will you come back?" With a gentle nuzzle, Buddy assured him, "I'll always come back." As the medical team rushed to respond to the emergency, the boy watched Buddy disappear down the hall, his heart heavy but hopeful. In that moment, it became clear that Buddy wasn't just a stray dog visiting the hospital, he was a beacon of hope for everyone, a reminder that love and companionship could make even the darkest days a little brighter. As the day continued, the staff would reflect on the profound impact Buddy had on their lives and the lives of the children he visited. The bond they shared was a testament to the healing power of love and friendship. And so, as Buddy ventured out into the world, he carried with him the warmth of the children's laughter and the gratitude of their families. He was not just a stray dog, he was a hero, a friend, and a guardian of hope in a place that desperately needed it. In the pediatric wing of the hospital, the atmosphere shifted dramatically as Buddy nuzzled against the boy's hand. The young child's eyes lit up with recognition, and a smile broke through his frightened expression. "Buddy, you came for me," he exclaimed, his voice weak but filled with joy. The tension in the room melted away, replaced by a warmth that spread among the medical staff and the boy's mother. Miss Thompson stood nearby, witnessing the profound connection between the boy and Buddy. She felt a lump in her throat as she watched the boy's small fingers curl around the dog's fur. "It's amazing how he knew," she whispered to Dr. Lee, who nodded in agreement, a thoughtful look on his face. "I've heard stories of animals sensing when someone is in distress," Dr. Lee replied. "It's almost like they have a sixth sense." Buddy seems to have a special bond with these children. The boy's mother knelt beside her son, tears glistening in her eyes as she gently stroked Buddy's back. "Thank you for bringing him here," she said to the dog, her voice trembling with gratitude. "You're my son's best friend. I didn't know if he would be okay." As the medical team continued their work, Buddy remained close, his big, brown eyes filled with concern. He was a protector, a silent guardian ensuring the boy felt safe in this unfamiliar environment. The sounds of beeping machines and hurried footsteps faded into the background, leaving only the soothing presence of the dog and the boy's laughter. "Buddy, I missed you so much," the boy murmured, his voice growing stronger. "I didn't want to be alone." Miss Thompson observed the scene, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew then that Buddy had not only been a source of joy for the children but also a lifeline during their darkest moments. His visits had created an unbreakable bond, one that offered solace to those who needed it most. With the boy stabilizing, Dr. Lee turned to the staff, directing them to ensure the boy received all the necessary care while keeping Buddy by his side. "Let's give him a chance to heal with his friend nearby," he instructed. "Animals can provide a level of comfort that sometimes we can't." The nurses quickly gathered around, attending to the boy's needs while making sure Buddy stayed close. As they worked, Buddy lay beside the stretcher, resting his head on the boy's arm, his tail thumping softly against the floor. The warmth of their connection radiated through the room, creating a bubble of safety that enveloped them all. "Look, Mommy. Buddy is here," the boy said, grinning as he pointed at the dog. "He's going to help me get better." The mother smiled, her heart aching with relief. "Yes, he is," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You're so brave, sweetheart." Time seemed to stand still in that small corner of the hospital. The noise of the world outside faded away, replaced by the soft whispers of comfort exchanged between the boy and Buddy. The medical staff exchanged glances, recognizing the significance of the moment. They understood that Buddy was more than just a dog, he was a symbol of hope. As the minutes passed, the boy began to regain his strength. With Buddy by his side, he felt braver, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Miss Thompson took a step back, watching the magic unfold. It was a heartwarming scene that would forever be etched in her memory. Just then, a nurse walked in with a tray of fresh bandages and medication. "How's our little warrior doing?" she asked cheerfully, glancing at Buddy and then at the boy. "I see you've got your secret weapon with you." The boy laughed, a sound that echoed through the room. "Yes. Buddy is my superhero." The nurse chuckled, her heart warmed by the exchange. "Well, superheroes need to be strong, so let's make sure you eat well and take your medicine." As the boy settled back against his pillow, Buddy kept a watchful eye, his ears perked up as if ready to spring into action if needed. The bond between them was undeniable, a powerful reminder of the strength that love and companionship could bring. Meanwhile, the hospital staff continued to marvel at the unexpected bond that had formed between Buddy and the children. The stories of his daily visits began to spread throughout the hospital, inspiring other staff members to engage with their young patients in new ways. They realized that sometimes, the simplest acts of kindness could have the most profound impact. As the day wore on, Buddy remained by the boy's side, never straying far. The hospital felt different, the atmosphere buzzed with newfound energy and hope. Each child who encountered Buddy felt lighter, their spirits lifted by the furry visitor who brought smiles and laughter into their lives. Eventually, word reached the hospital administration about Buddy's heroic efforts. Miss Thompson was called into a meeting with the hospital director, who was intrigued by the dog's presence. "I've heard so much about this stray dog who visits the children," he said, leaning forward. "What do you think we should do about it?" Miss Thompson smiled, her heart swelling with pride for Buddy and the children. "I think we should consider making him an official therapy dog for our hospital," she suggested. "He's already doing so much good." The director nodded thoughtfully, clearly impressed. "That's a fantastic idea. Let's get the necessary paperwork started. We can have Buddy certified and ensure he's safe to continue visiting the kids." Excitement filled the air as the director shared the news with the rest of the staff. Everyone gathered, buzzing with enthusiasm at the idea of Buddy becoming a permanent fixture in the hospital. The children, too, would benefit from having their furry friend by their side as they navigated their medical journeys. Back in the pediatric wing, the boy's mother watched as the nurses and doctors tended to her son. "You all are so wonderful," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for everything you're doing." "We're just doing our jobs," one nurse replied with a smile, glancing at Buddy. "But we couldn't do it without our special helper." The boy beamed, feeling like a champion. "Buddy is the best," he declared. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the hospital windows, Miss Thompson made her way back to the pediatric wing. She found Buddy lying beside the boy, who was now resting peacefully. The sight filled her with joy, she could see the healing power of companionship at work. "Hey, Buddy," Miss Thompson whispered, kneeling beside him. "You've made such a difference today." The dog lifted his head and wagged his tail, as if he understood every word. He was content, having found his purpose in the lives of the children he adored. The day ended with a sense of accomplishment and unity. The hospital staff, parents, and children shared stories of resilience, hope, and the magic of Buddy's visits. They all realized that sometimes, the greatest healing came from the love and loyalty of a furry friend. As the last light faded from the sky, Buddy lay quietly, watching over the boy and the other children who had come to rely on his presence. He was not just a stray dog anymore, he was a beloved member of the hospital family. Tomorrow, and every day after, Buddy would return, bringing with him the comfort and joy that only a faithful companion could provide. In the hearts of the children, he would always be their superhero, and in the hospital, he would forever be a symbol of hope and healing. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sun spilling golden rays into the children's hospital. As the staff began their rounds, an air of excitement buzzed through the pediatric wing. Today was the day Buddy would officially become the hospital's therapy dog. Miss Thompson couldn't wait to share the news with the kids and see their faces light up with joy. As she made her way to the playroom, she spotted the familiar golden-brown fur of Buddy lounging comfortably in his usual spot, right outside the door. "Good morning, Buddy," she greeted, bending down to scratch behind his ears. He responded with a happy wag of his tail, ready to start another day of bringing smiles. Inside the playroom, children were already awake and playing with toys. The air was filled with laughter, and the sound of little voices echoed off the walls. As Miss Thompson stepped into the room, all eyes turned toward her, sparkling with curiosity. "Guess what, everyone," she announced, her voice ringing with excitement. "I have some very special news." "What is it?" Lucy, the little girl who had first recognized Buddy, asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Today, Buddy is officially our therapy dog," Miss Thompson proclaimed, beaming at the children. "He will be visiting us every day to help brighten our spirits and make us feel better." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Children jumped up from their seats, their joy palpable. "Buddy! Buddy! Buddy!" they chanted, clapping their hands in excitement. Buddy, sensing the celebration, bounced to his feet and wagged his tail even faster, soaking in all the love and attention. "Isn't this amazing?" Miss Thompson continued, her heart swelling with happiness. "Buddy is here to help us feel strong, brave, and happy while we're in the hospital. He'll be your friend during the hard times and celebrate with you during the good times." Lucy rushed forward, throwing her arms around Buddy's neck. "You're my best friend, Buddy. I'm so glad you're here." The other children gathered around, joining in the group hug, and Buddy responded by licking their faces, his tail wagging furiously. As the morning progressed, Buddy visited each child, sitting patiently beside them as they played games and colored pictures. He seemed to know exactly who needed a little extra comfort. When a boy named Max, who had recently undergone surgery, sat quietly in a corner, Buddy trotted over and nestled his head in Max's lap. Max smiled, a light breaking through the worry in his eyes. "You came to see me, Buddy," he said, scratching the dog behind the ears. The connection was instant, and Max's heart felt a little lighter. During their playtime, Miss Thompson introduced some new activities to keep the children engaged. They painted colorful pictures to hang on the walls, played games, and even had a small dance party, with Buddy happily joining in the fun, bouncing around as the children giggled and laughed. "Look at him go," one of the nurses remarked, laughing as Buddy spun in circles, his excitement infectious. "He should be our official dance partner." As the day wore on, the hospital staff witnessed the transformative power Buddy had on the children. Nurses and doctors who passed by the playroom couldn't help but smile at the sight of the happy children and their furry friend. Buddy was indeed doing what he was meant to do, bringing light and laughter into a place often filled with worry and uncertainty. Later that afternoon, Miss Thompson gathered the children for a storytime session. They all settled in with Buddy lying comfortably in the center, his ears perked up, listening intently. "Today, we're going to read a special story about friendship," she said, holding up a beautifully illustrated book. As she read the story, the children hung on her every word. They laughed at the funny parts and gasped at the adventures of the characters. Buddy, sensing the joy in the room, let out a soft bark, as if he were adding his own commentary to the tale. "Isn't it amazing how friends can make us feel better?" Miss Thompson asked as she closed the book. "Just like Buddy makes us feel happy and loved." "I love Buddy," Lucy exclaimed, raising her hand. He's the best friend I could ever ask for. The children chimed in, each one sharing their own stories of how Buddy had helped them feel better during tough times. And if you like the story, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Their voices blended into a beautiful chorus of gratitude, and Miss Thompson felt a tear of joy slip down her cheek. Today was such a special day, she said, her heart full. But let's make sure we keep Buddy safe and happy. He needs our love just as much as we need his. Just then, the boy who had been in the hospital after the accident, whose name was Tommy, raised his hand. "Can we have a party for Buddy?" he asked, a bright smile on his face. "To celebrate that he's our therapy dog." The room erupted in agreement. "Yes." "A party," they all shouted, bouncing in their seats. Miss Thompson laughed. "That sounds like a wonderful idea. How about we plan a special Buddy party for tomorrow?" The children cheered, already buzzing with ideas about games, decorations, and snacks they could bring. "I want to make Buddy a crown," Lucy suggested excitedly. "And a big bone-shaped cake." As the children brainstormed, Buddy lay at their feet, enjoying the chatter and laughter. He could feel the warmth of their friendship surrounding him, and he was grateful to be a part of such a loving community. After the excitement settled down, it was time for the children to have their afternoon rest. Miss Thompson gently reminded them, "Okay, little ones, let's take a nap so we can have lots of energy for our party tomorrow." As the children curled up on their mats, Buddy nestled in beside Max, who had already drifted off to sleep. The boy sighed contentedly, knowing his furry friend was right there with him. Hours later, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the hospital. Miss Thompson and the staff prepared for the next day's celebrations, filling the playroom with colorful decorations and setting up tables for snacks. They wanted to ensure that the Buddy party would be a memorable event for the children. As night fell, a gentle knock echoed through the pediatric wing. It was Buddy's owner, a kind woman named Sarah, who had been looking for him. She had heard about Buddy's adventures and the joy he had brought to the children. "Is Buddy here?" she asked, stepping into the playroom, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on her beloved dog, sprawled comfortably on the floor. The children squealed with delight. "Yes. He's our therapy dog now," Lucy exclaimed, jumping up to greet Sarah. "He makes us so happy." Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she listened to the children share their stories of Buddy's visits. She knelt down beside him, running her fingers through his fur. "I'm so proud of you, Buddy," she said softly. "You've made a real difference in these kids' lives." Miss Thompson approached Sarah, explaining the decision to officially adopt Buddy as the hospital's therapy dog. "We'd love to have him here regularly if you're willing," she said, her eyes shining with hope. Sarah smiled, her heart full of gratitude. "Of course. I would love for Buddy to be here. He thrives on helping others, and this is exactly where he belongs." The next morning, the children woke up with excitement bubbling inside them. Today was the day of the Buddy party. They arrived in the playroom with their crafts, treats, and plenty of hugs for their favorite dog. As the festivities began, laughter echoed through the hallways of the hospital. There were games, balloons, and colorful streamers decorating the walls. The children were giddy with joy, and Buddy was at the center of it all, happily accepting pets and treats. "Let's start with Buddy's birthday cake," Lucy announced, presenting a large bone-shaped cake decorated with dog-safe frosting. The children gathered around, cheering as Miss Thompson helped slice the cake. "Happy birthday, Buddy," they sang, their voices ringing with pure delight. Buddy wagged his tail excitedly, his eyes shining with love as he enjoyed his special treat. Throughout the day, the children shared stories, played games, and celebrated the bond they had formed with Buddy. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and love, reminding everyone of the power of friendship and the joy of companionship. As the party drew to a close, Miss Thompson gathered the children in a circle. "I want to thank each of you for being so amazing and for showing Buddy how much he means to you. Remember, he's not just a dog, he's a part of our family now." Tommy raised his hand. "Can we make a scrapbook for Buddy?" So we can remember all the fun we had? Absolutely, Miss Thompson replied, smiling at the clever idea. Let's collect photos and memories, and we can show Buddy how much he's loved. The children cheered in agreement, their hearts bursting with happiness. They were grateful for Buddy and the impact he had on their lives. As they began to clean up, Buddy lay in the center of the circle, surrounded by the children. They took turns sharing their favorite memories, petting him and giggling as he licked their faces. Buddy, you're our superhero, Lucy exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Buddy let out a happy bark, as if he understood every word. He had found his purpose, his family, and the love he had always longed for. And if you like the story, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell.